Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our session today. Allie and I are super excited to be with you, and Prey is in attendance as well. So thanks for collaborating with us, Prey. We're going to get started in a few minutes. So thanks for hanging out. We'll let a few more folks join, and then we'll start talking about certifications. Oh, and I will say too, Allie and I are trying to work and navigate multiple tabs to check out any kind of comments you're throwing at us on LinkedIn. So feel free to post, ask questions, and we will check those out periodically. Allie, we should get some hold music next time for everyone.
Yeah, I think there might be a way to add that in the district.
Look forward to that in our next session. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining, everyone. The countdown is on. We're going to start in about 3.5 minutes. Thanks for joining. Loving the comments already on LinkedIn. Keep them coming. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to get started in another couple minutes here, giving everyone time to jump in, grab their snacks and lunches. We're going to be checking LinkedIn periodically for your comments. Thanks for joining. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Awesome comments already flowing on the event at LinkedIn. So thank you very much. I think we're also streaming on YouTube. Allie and I are officially streamers now. So if you're joining us from YouTube, we're going to add that layer in for next time. But we are really loving StreamYard. So
yeah, we'll have to figure out Twitch for next time.
Yes. I was also thinking TikTok once we figure that out.
Yeah.
We're going to be everywhere. And we're going to have fun today. So get ready for some corny jokes. 1 more minute and we will get started with the content. Just staring at my phone, counting down. Ooh, hello from Sri Lanka. Hello. Bogota. Hola. Thanks for joining. Brazil. I know. And we're going to do all channels, I think. Anna's saying that we should be everywhere all the time. We're going to do it. All right. I think we can get started. My name is Nicole. I am the King of Prussia Slack community group leader and Slack practice lead over at SaltClick. Super excited to be partnering up with Allie again. This is honestly my favorite session. So Allie, I'll turn it over to you for intros as well.
Yeah, hi, I'm Allie Waguespack. I'm the Senior Manager of Delivery at Brid and the Slack Community Leader for Lafayette, Louisiana. It's great to see y'all. So, forward-looking statement, as always, don't make any purchasing decisions based on anything that we say today.
And on to my favorite question, why get certified? I was a teacher in a past life, English, lit, everybody loves grammar, right? I think certifications are one way that we're able to express, that we're able to dive in, learn new content, and really grow our skill sets. I don't think it's the end all be all. Hands-on experience is definitely key, but I am a true believer that certification has value. It also helps you not only with customers, but in your own organizations as well, especially if you're using Slack, can turn those problems or gaps that you're seeing into solutions. So if you are working in the Slack space, then it's going to help you as a consultant really understand that Slack platform. And if you're using it in your current job or your future job, then you're going to be able to understand channels and user groups and lifecycle management and really add another layer to what you're doing in your job or at your company. And there are a few Slack certifications. So we've got the Slack Certified Admin exam. That's the one that we're going to be talking about today. There's a consultant exam as well. And then there's a developer exam. And I know I have gone the admin, consultant, developer path. So there's, there was an order to my madness on that one. But there are 3 different ones that exist today. And we're going to dive into the admin one.
Awesome. So let's talk about some of the learning paths that you can take to skill up and get ready for the admin exam. So there are 3 main kind of paths here. There's Trailhead, of course. So all of the content for Slack is now in Trailhead. You can go through all of the trails. Of course, there's just been an update to the exam. So there's not a new trail mix just yet, but all of the existing Slack content is there for you to go through. There's the partner community, which is actually in the middle. So if you're a Salesforce partner, there's additional content and material in the partner community for you to skill up and learn Slack. And of course, there, like Nicole said, the 3 exams that you can kind of look at all the content holistically as you're studying for the admin exam. Of course, as that first base exam, all the content for the other exams will be super helpful to you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Great place to start. So let's figure out how to ace this exam together. First things first, this is available through Pearson VUE, 60 multiple choice, multiple select questions. You have up to 105 minutes to complete it, so don't rush yourself. 65% or higher is the passing score, and that's the $200 registration fee. Maintenance, of course, as Allie called out, is on Trailhead, so it makes our lives easier. And the exam questions align to the 26 release. So let's get into how things are weighted, because this has changed from our previous presentations. So the admin exam went through a refresh. Fundamentals is now 18%. User lifecycle management is 13%. Workspace and org management 17%. App, AI, and automations is 20%. Governance, security, and compliance is 22%. That's the new highest percentage there. And then enabling Slack success is 10%. So we want to pay attention to how those sections are weighted. That's going to help you understand what to focus on in your study sessions. So let's get started thinking about fundamentals. So plans, roles, administration responsibilities. You definitely want to understand the core functions of each plan, and there are a few plans: Free, Pro, Business Plus, and Enterprise Plus. You want to understand what comes with each plan, what the differences are, and why you might choose one over the other. The focus for the exam is definitely on the Enterprise Plus. So you want to remember that as you're going through your study sessions and your content. And you also want to understand that there are different roles that exist in Slack, just like in Salesforce and most systems. We're going to have administrator roles. So org administrator, workspace administrator. You're going to have things like channel administrators. There are quite a few in there that you get to deep dive into, which is very exciting. You want to understand what they do, what permissions they have, and what they need to be able to perform when they're going through their day-to-day. So if we talked about channel managers, kind of start to think logically about what access they need to perform managing a channel. And then, of course, we have to think about the life of the Slack administrator. So as the admin, you actually get to wield a lot of power, and you want to understand what a workspace administrator does, what an org administrator can do, and you actually want to understand where that power splits. So there's some opportunities for an org administrator to push down responsibilities to a workspace administrator. So you want to understand some of those nuances. And now we've said a few things here, but Allie is going to test us out with a sample question coming to you live. So Allie, what's our test question?
Okay. So which Slack paid plan would you recommend to a large org that needs unlimited workspaces, multi-workspace channels, a custom terms of service, and web domain claiming? Is it available on any plan, just on Enterprise, or on Business Plus? I know there's a tiny little lag between us and LinkedIn, but if you want to drop what you think the answer is in the chat, we'll take a look and see if anybody gets it right. This is where we need the Jeopardy theme music.
Where we need the music. Yeah. I feel like a bunch of people are going to get this.
I think so.
I'm refreshing my screen too. Oh, here they come. We've got one so far for B.
Another one for B. All right. It looks like everyone's getting B, and that is correct. Enterprise Grid is the plan that you'll need to get all of those features. Great job, y'all. All right. So let's talk about user lifecycle management. So user lifecycle management is all about the people in your org, right? Arguably the most important part of what is happening in Slack are those users. So to be able to pass this part of the exam, you really need to understand how to select the optimal authentication method. So the best way to get people into Slack securely and what meets your org security needs. So you also need to know about streamlining account creation using things like SCIM or just-in-time provisioning. And I don't want you to panic if you've never heard those words before. All of the training and reading that you'll do will help you learn just in time to pass the exam. You also need to know automated workspace and channel assignment. So how to establish the processes to put people in the right workspaces and the right channels. And then user deactivation and lifecycle management. So as people join and leave your org, how to manage deactivation at scale through SCIM deprovisioning or through a manual process to offboard folks. And then, of course, as you know, a lot of you will have contractors or folks who need to be just temporarily in your Slack instance. And you really need to understand guest user access control. So single channel versus multi-channel guests, how to give those people the right level of access to make sure they don't have more than they need in your account. So really understanding guest user controls will be a big part of this part of the exam. The next part of the exam is workspace and org management. So really talking about workspace administration. So focusing on workspace creation, visibility settings, consolidation strategies to align with your org structure and needs. Again, this particularly leans toward Enterprise Plus and being able to admin that level and that plan. So to ace this section, you'll need to know how to differentiate between the need for a workspace or channels or cross workspace channels. Determine which settings need to be adjusted to allow for all members in a workspace to access certain features. You should know how to manage a user's account access to multiple workspaces within the grid and how to configure a Slack Connect channel so that you can talk to all of your external partners easily. So I'll pass it back over to Nicole to get into some details.
Thank you much. This is one of my favorite things to think about. It's workspace architecture. So let's dig into it a little bit more. So there's 4 key components shown right there on the screen for you that are going to help you build out a solid framework. So it's model and structure. We want to think about how the way that we're designing workspaces and channels will impact our users, and if it's going to end up being scalable for us. So we're thinking about today, but also, 3, 6, 12 years from now as well. We want to think about roles and responsibilities. So thinking about the responsibilities of the people that you have in your enterprise org, in your workspaces, any kind of additional roles that are going to have to be added. All of these things, really, we want to think about as we're framing out how we're going to architect our workspaces. We also want to think about policies and settings. This is a big one. So it's not just about creating the workspace, creating the channel. We want to think about how it's actually going to be used. Are we going to have guests, like Ali was talking about? What should they be able to see and do? This is really what we consider our launch material. So what your org needs to function on day one, and thinking about security as well. That's key. Slack really embeds that everywhere. Security policies like data retention, accounting for that in your implementation is going to be key. And this section is also where you're going to find a lot of the Slack best practices that you're going to end up following. The top 2, I think, really to keep in mind: keep it simple, keep it manageable and direct. So you want to maintain the minimum number of workspaces and channels that your teams need, and then make sure that you're following a nice, clean naming convention when it comes to channels. Our goal really is to help people work faster, navigate things a little bit easier. I'm sure Ali and I are probably in about, 20, 30 Slack workspaces with a ton of channels. If we have a set naming convention and a way of working, makes it a lot easier to navigate your day-to-day. And then once you figure out what your teams need, you're just going to continuously learn how to enhance that for them as well. All right. On to the next one. New section, Ali. What do we have? Oh, no, just kidding. Sorry, they changed things around. So this is still me. That was a test, everyone. Ali passed. So the next thing that we want to think about is really that channel management. So we have to understand for this exam, and really for architecting for our users, channel mindset. And one of those very important things is going to be searching first versus just creating. It's very important to be able to find existing channels. That naming convention helps that, but that search first mentality is going to help things stay clean as well. When do I create a new channel? Is there a process for that? Again, naming convention is key here, so we can easily find what we're looking for and that people can get through workdays a little bit easier. We also want to understand the different types of channels. So we've got public channels, everyone can search for, find, join. We've got private channels. These are, in a sense, hidden. There's a little padlock next to them. If you're in it, you can see that. If you're not invited to that, then you're not going to be able to search that. And we want to understand when to create each one of those. When we're in Slack, we're really looking at working out loud. So you might want to default your channels to being public so that everyone can see and find what they're looking for. But you probably want to have that HR channel as a private channel. You also want to understand different permissions for different channel members. You might want to limit who could post in a channel. If you've got an announcement channel, maybe you don't want everyone to post in there because it could get noisy. And we also want to think about who can use the @mention. I'm sure you've been in some workspaces and channels by now where somebody's @mentioning here or channel and you're getting constant pings. We want to think about how to manage that. And then one of my favorites, Slack Connect, really connecting with folks like partners and customers in Slack. A bonus here, outside of being able to collaborate, share information, ideas, and work through projects, is that you can actually steal custom emojis. So look out for that the next time you're in a Slack Connect channel. Okay, now I think, Ali, I got excited. Now it's time for you to talk about the new section.
Yes, this is a very exciting, shiny, brand new section of the exam, apps and AI administration and automation. So we finally got AI in the Slack exam. So I'm super excited to talk about what you need to know in this section, and then how you can use the AI to power up your Slack experience. So this section is worth 20% of the exam. So it's the second largest section after security. So it's really worth spending a lot of real study time here, especially because this is such a new part of the exam. So if you've been studying for the exam for a while and you're kind of using the old exam guide, make sure to check out the new exam guide because this is a brand new section. It does take some of the old section from workflows and automation and kind of squeeze it together in here, but a good chunk of this part is all about Slack AI. And you really need to know that Slack AI isn't a separate app. It's not something you install. It's a native feature fully embedded inside of Slack that owners and admins are able to enable and control from the admin console. So this section will cover 3 areas: rolling out Slack AI, controlling which apps get installed, and understanding what app scopes actually grant. So around Slack AI, this will cover things like thread summaries, channel recaps, AI-powered search, huddle notes, Slack bot, all of the generative AI features that are baked into Slack now. So you should understand the different contexts in which users might use each feature. And then you should also understand what you can and can't do at the enterprise level for enabling those AI features and what kind of controls as an admin that you have around those. So second is app installation and approvals. So every org has a big choice to make. Do we let people install apps freely from the app directory? Do we require admin approval before anything goes into our org? Or do we lock it down to a pre-approved list only? So you should really know how to assess a company's requirements by being able to read a scenario for that company and then make a recommendation for each one. So this takes you a little bit beyond even the admin level into a little bit of that consulting space and a little bit of that consulting experience to be able to read scenarios and then just determine which answer fits for that company. And then the last part of this new section is evaluating app scopes. So scopes are really just the specific permissions an app is asking for, right? So do I need to be able to read messages, post as a bot, see the user profiles, that kind of stuff. The actual skill being tested in this part of the exam is applying least privilege. So looking at what an app claims to do and then flagging it if the scopes are requesting to go way far beyond that. So think about it like a scheduling app is asking for full read access to every DM in the workspace. That's definitely a huge mismatch security-wise, and that's the kind of thing that's looking for you to catch when you're evaluating app scopes. So really there's the theme that's tying all 3 things together in this section. As an admin, you're constantly checking whether the access being granted actually meets the real need and then being able to answer questions around that. And that ties into this section around governance, security, and compliance. And we are almost done, almost to the last section of the exam. But this section is all, like I said, about keeping it locked down. So when I first started working in Slack, studying for this admin exam, being an accidental Slack admin, I really didn't realize all of the security that Slack offers out of the box, like encryption and monitoring. And maybe you haven't realized that either. So that's why this is a really important part of the test and the largest part of the test, because security ties back into every previous section. So from understanding user access, those app approvals we just talked about, security is a really big deal for Slack. So you'll need to know all of the Slack security features, how to have conversations around governance, risk management, and compliance, and what features we can enable for those. You'll need to know about mobile device management. And it's okay if you've never set up MDM, that's totally fine. You just need to understand why a company might want to use that and how to set it up. So the concepts you learn in this part of the exam, that's now a really big part of the exam, like I said, carry across the entire exam. And you'll really want to spend a lot of time just enabling yourself on this one. So I'll pass it back over to Nicole to talk about enabling Slack success.
What a lead in, Allie. Enabling success. This is also one of my favorite sections because you as an admin are going to be building and championing and finding other champions, either with your customers or with your own company. And what we don't want to do is just set it and forget it, right? We set up Slack, we set up some channels, and then we go, okay, we're done. Our job as admins, it's iterative and it's continuous. And this section really is, how do we make sure that every awesome thing that we've built, we're continuing to champion, we're continuing to remind folks. Maybe that looks like office hours. Maybe that looks like a help Slack channel and some canvases to guide folks through their processes. It's really about listening to your users, partnering with them, and then figuring out what needs to change. Do we need to have, monthly check-ins? How can I, as an admin, understand what is happening in the workspace? So this really has us thinking about analytics as well. If we're very much championing channels and we check our reporting on the admin side of things and we see a lot of DM conversations, it might be an area that we want to dive into. So along with enabling our users, Slack enables us to understand at a deeper level what's happening in the workspace through reporting and other key features. And I think the other piece that we want to talk about, because we can never forget about workflows, is how you can automate your day. And I don't know if anyone was a Salesforce user, you might be remembering workflows there. Very much if-then statements. If something happens here, then I want this next thing to happen. I love them because they are no code, right? Anyone can really build with a workflow. And I love the examples that we always call out, right? Like submitting requests to marketing, telling Gigi she's killing it. We've got some daily stand-ups as well. We've got weekly UAT reminders. Those repetitive tasks that you are tending to take on, you can automate those with workflows. So this is one of those enabling success features, because now that we've got our core foundation built, we can start to think about automating some of those key tasks. And then when we realize how powerful workflows are, we can start thinking about something happening in Slack and then automating something to happen in another system, or vice versa. So I get really excited about workflows, and they're constantly adding on to the functionality as well. But the key item for this section, for this feature, is to think about how to set up workflows. What are some key use cases? How to help people automate tasks? Where to go to build workflows, what type of features and functions exist in those workflows. And then once you have them, how do you publish them? Where do you publish them to? Is it just going to be a standing link in a canvas? Is it going to be featured and saved in a specific channel? Should it be visible and available to all users? So we get back to security when we start thinking about that. So it's really about understanding the features and functions of workflows, along with how powerful they can be, and then how to control access and visibility to those as well. And I think this leads us in right into more users.
Yeah, so user feedback helps you to level up Slack with some help from your team. So that's a big part of this section, is being able to know when you need to talk to folks on your team and assess their user feedback to identify adoption challenges and usability issues. So I saw a comment on LinkedIn, like, what kind of tips do you share for Slack success? This is a big one, right? Listening to your users. Like when people are saying, I have too many messages, I don't know where my channels are, right? Being able to help them by doing some training around muting channels, adding things to your recap, cleaning up your sidebar, making sections, right? Listening to your users like helps you to figure out what you need to train them on or what you need to change inside of Slack. So in this section, you also need to be able to check out some scenarios and then align Slack features and workflows and automations with those business requirements. And you need to understand when you want to set up a champion network. So that's a big thing, I think, around Slack success, is setting up a champion network to support ongoing Slack adoption, figuring out those folks in your org who are passionate and love Slack and who are ready to answer questions, to hop on with folks and help them understand how they can, use Slack a little bit better. And of course, we're here today as part of the Slack community. And so we want to talk about leveraging your community. So within the Slack community, that's a global community, as you can see with us here from Louisiana, from Pennsylvania, from India, from all over the world, right? It's a global community of folks who are just as passionate about Slack or want to learn about Slack just like you. There's a Slack workspace where you can join us and get lots of feedback. There are channels for getting Slack certified where you can ask folks questions. And then, of course, we've got meetups like this one virtually and also in person. So definitely check out slackcommunity.com to see if there's a Slack community near you or if there are any virtual sessions happening. It's just a great way to leverage your Ohana and the community to help you learn and grow. And then, of course, there's some additional resources like the Slack blog, Salesforce and Slack help docs, Stack Exchange for the really technical stuff, Slack on Reddit for Reddit stuff, those less serious conversations. And then the Slack Developer Program, where you can get a free enterprise sandbox. So if you're not an admin at your company, you want to kind of play around with Slack, the Slack Developer Program is the best way to get a free enterprise instance. So you can poke around, break things, change things, and figure stuff out. But that is really it from us. My Q&A slide seems to be missing, but happy to answer any questions you all have for us.
Got 2 so far. So Ritesh is asking how Slackbot is different from Slack AI, I believe. So it's going to respond in thread, but this is a great time to respond, right? So when we think about Slack AI, historically it was channel summaries and thread summaries and then recaps, I believe. And Slackbot is a much more robust conversational element in Slack that could do those things, but then much more as well. So there's a whole session we could probably do on Slackbot. But I would think, Slack AI kind of like static features, and then Slackbot, much more conversational assistant in Slack that can see and now start to act on your behalf. Okay, can we trigger deployments with Slack messages for like deployments and things like that? Oh, that's a good one. I have to think about a different use case there. But Allie, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah. So Gigi Chan, who was in that slide and is also a Slack community leader, had a presentation at Dreamforce on using, I believe it was Claude, to trigger Git deployments. So I will look for the recording of that one and drop it as a reply to your question.
Love it. Yeah, we have some customers that are taking on, and us as well, DevOps processes inside of Slack. So even if you can't do it with a native workflow or Slackbot, to your point, Ellie, you could use other, like OpenAI or Claude functionality there. And we've got some people talking about being leaders and co-leaders. Absolutely. Please go join the Slack community and check to see if you've got a user group near you. And if not, see if you can create one. What other questions do y'all have? I don't know if there's like a little bit of a lag, so trying to figure balance of waiting for folks to type. Well, you'll be seeing Allie and myself again. So don't worry if you have more questions. But throw your questions in LinkedIn, and we will try to respond to those. Otherwise, you can find us in the Slack community workspace. Happy to chat there as well, and appreciate everybody's time today.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, everybody.